Hi, I'm Arthur, and this is part 10 in a 20-part series I am doing covering second founding, or as close as I can get to it, successor chapters of the original legions in order. Do you need to have seen the other parts to understand this one? No, but it would make me happy. The Iron Hands are a bit hard to talk about. See, being me, and living the life of someone who is constantly reading and consuming 40k material, you learn more and more. I know considerably more about the Iron Hands now than when I even made the video about the Iron Hands. But the issue therein lies that there still isn't much more I could add on to make them seem interesting. This specific issue sort of transfers over to their successor chapters, as more or less all of them are very, very similar to their parent legion, but with a different coat of paint. So, what do I mean by this? Well, Iron Hands are known for being cold, calculating, tactical, and have a focus on devastating their foes. Then you have a look at something like the Brazen Claws, and you see a chapter of Marines known for being stoic, well thought out, strategic, and focus on eliminating all targets. Now, for those of you who own a thesaurus, I basically just said the same thing twice. It's kind of the theme of the Iron Hands second founding chapters, I noticed. They all have basically the same descriptor, but with a different coat of paint on it. So fuck you, I decided to choose something out of left field. A chapter of Marines that might not even be Iron Hand successors, but they are listed as possibly being one on the wiki, and in every article I look up about them says the same deal. They are greeted with a resounding, yeah, probably Ferrus Manus, which, if you're new to this channel, is more or less the go signal for me to make an entire video essay on them. Before I get into the chapter proper and their little quirks, I just want to thank someone who's been a viewer of mine for a little while now. If you see miniatures on screen, it is from her. It was kind of funny. When I unveiled the Season 2 listing in my announcement video where I was covering the successor chapters, showing that I was like covering Star Dragons at one point, which is how this video is going to shake down, we got a person who entered the public Discord server that I run for the channel who has an entire army of Star Dragons, and she joined because I was going to be covering them. And all the miniatures are very amazingly painted, so thank her for that. So it's cool to have the one Star Dragons player in my court, I guess. So who are the Star Dragons? That is a simple and somehow also complicated question to ask, because you can't ask the question of who are the Star Dragons without asking who are the Blood Swords. The Blood Swords are a small chapter of Blood Angel successors that are almost bonded at the hip to the Star Dragons as a chapter. They are incredibly close-knit in terms of brotherhood. There are not many chapters that share a bond as strong as theirs. Essentially, it's a mix of their home planets being very close together, and they were tasked with very similar missions and worked to aid each other. The lore describes them as being so close that they resemble brothers from the same chapter rather than Marines from separate ones, which I think is neat. Having a brotherly connection in the 40k universe is pretty ubiquitous to the setting's more endearing qualities. So to snap back, now that you have that, the Star Dragons are an alleged successor chapter to the Iron Hands of an unknown founding. They do not share the cold and calculating nature of their parent legion, but they do have a very similar idea of technological replacement to their physical bodies. Instead of removing limbs, they undergo ritual scarring to add glowing circuitry under their skin, giving them this look of glowing from the core of their being, which is fucking neat to think about. It's a pretty unique aesthetic for Marines to have, and I have no idea how you would paint that on a Marine. Their armor color is a vibrant cobalt with a silver aquila and backpack, so they are pretty noticeable on the tabletop. Their colors are dark enough to not be confused with Ultramarines, but light enough not to be confused with Crimson Fist. It's kind of its own thing. They have a very cute set of naming conventions when it comes to their entire army. It's one of those chapters, if you catch my drift, the ones where GW obviously couldn't help themselves, so they just named everything Dragon E. squads are called Scales. Their planet is called Draconeth. They have dragons and lizard terminology in all aspects of their chapter, which is adorable, but, like, it can get a bit silly. Just cut to my complaints about the Space Wolves or the Blood Angels and you kind of get an idea of what I'm saying here. That being said, there's not enough writing for the Star Dragons to make it get a little stale, so it balances out a little bit. If they ever got expanded upon, I could see it getting a little bit annoying. Alongside that, they are considered to be a Codex-compliant chapter, which is cool, having 10 companies and so on, you know, the whole spiel. They don't have too much lore, but the main piece that is the most interesting, and that is them, the Star Dragons, and the Blood Swords have long since teamed up to create a kind of containment fleet. Essentially, this fleet orbits horrible areas near the Eye of Terror so they can pick off any wayward chaos elements that come out of it, which has led to some fun occurrences in the past, I will say, with the likes of the Adeptus Praesus. But hey, 12th time's the charm, right? This deployment was known as Containment Fleet Kappa, which still works together to this day, though under weirder circumstances than you would normally expect from a chapter orbiting the Eye of Terror. Albeit, there really isn't a precedent for any of this shit, so what the fuck do I know? The last chapter I discussed that worked in the Eye of Terror got outed for eating people before they fell to chaos. As the story goes, the Blood Swords ended up losing their homeworld, and because of the shame of this, they were commanded to go on a penance crusade to redeem themselves. Without hesitation, the Star Dragons jumped in to help their brothers like it wasn't a big deal to just choose to go on a penance crusade. Those things are fucking dangerous, by the way. This crusade lasted a while, and had some pretty fun twists to it, like them being requested by an Inquisitor from Ordo Malleus to assist in the exorcism of a Space Hulk possessed by demons from the Warp, which is badass. But that is a tale for another time. The end point I want to give here is that the Star Dragons are in a very unique situation, where instead of technically being a single chapter of Space Marines, they are never without their sworn battle brothers of Blood Swords. It's shit like that that makes me enjoy the setting more. It's like how Nathaniel Garrow from the Death Guard is a sworn battle brother of Saul Tarvitz from The Emperor's Children, which is fucking cool. I love both of those characters. It also means that if you wanted to, you could run a mixed army of both color schemes and still be running a lore-accurate army. You could run them with Space Marines or Blood Angels for the rules, and it would still both be valid. They allegedly fight almost identically, so it makes sense. They are brutal tacticians, but are very bellicose in terms of temperament. Very fiery in a sense, which does fly in the face of every other Iron Hand successor, but it pairs well with the Blood Angel successor that they're working with, the Swords of Blood, which, fun fact, Swords of Blood have even less lore than the Star Dragons, but they did show up in the Devastation of Baal. Cool, I guess. It all comes full circle at some point, right? It's a genuinely interesting concept that these two work together, and I enjoyed reading what little there was to them. But that is just me. What do you think of the Star Dragons, and also the Blood Swords? I didn't cover them as much, but they are as much a part of this video as the dragons were. Make sure to comment down below what you think of them. Alongside that, let me know if you know any other Space Marine pairings like this. I genuinely want to know because I've never heard of this happening before. Remember to like, subscribe, and all that good stuff. Thanks to my channel members for keeping me outside of the chaos wastes for another month. And if you want to see my content early, or even see exclusive content, then become a channel member today. Thanks again for watching, and until next time.